Hello, my friends. Welcome back. It is Mr. Francis for another episode of Reading with Mr. Francis. The weather outside right now is actually kind of rainy and cloudy. It's kind of dreary outside. We haven't had any snow here, at least in Georgia, where I'm from, in a while. So I figured I would read you a story that has a little snow as the background and the setting. Guess what? Another one of my favorites. This one is called The Mitten by Jan Brett. There you go. It's adapted and illustrated by Jan Brett. The Mitten is kind of a story that's been told over and over as the years go. Sometimes the story changes a little bit, so this is the version that is told by Jan Brett. I'm going to read you the words first, and then I'll show you the picture second. So you got to really have good listening ears on to listen to this one, and then I'll show you the pictures after I finish the page. The Mitten by Jan Brett. Once there was a boy named Nicky who wanted his new mittens made from wool as white as snow. So there is Nicky. Nicky is a boy. At first, his grandmother, Baba, did not want to knit white mittens. "If you drop one in the snow, you'll never find it," she warned. But Nicky wanted snow-white mittens, and finally Baba made them. After she finished, she said, "When you come home, first I will look to see if you are safe and sound. But then I will look to see if you have your snow-white mittens." So off Nicky went, and it wasn't long until one of his mittens dropped in the snow and was left behind. See if you can see on this page, he dropped his mitten in the snow. A mole, tired from tumbling along, discovered the mitten and burrowed inside. It was cozy and warm and just the right size, so he decided to stay. Over here on this page, the mole is going into the mitten. A snowshoe rabbit came hopping along. He stopped for a moment to admire his winter coat. It was then that he saw the mitten and he wiggled in, feet first. The mole didn't think there was enough room for both of them, but when he saw the rabbit's big kickers, he moved over. In goes the rabbit. Next, a hedgehog came snuffling along. Having spent the day looking under wet leaves for things to eat, he decided to move into the mitten and warm himself. The mole and the rabbit were bumped and jostled, but not being ones to argue with someone who's covered with prickles, they made room. I wonder what animal's going to come next. See if you can look for clues on the page. As soon as the hedgehog disappeared into the mitten, a big owl, attracted by commotion, swooped down, and when he decided to move in also, the mole, the rabbit, and the hedgehog grumbled. But when they saw the owl's glinty talons, they quickly let him in. Ooh, ooh. Up through the snow appeared a badger. He eyed the mitten and began to climb in. The mole, the rabbit, the hedgehog, and the owl were not pleased. There was no room left, but when they saw his diggers, they gave him the thumb. Wow, how many animals are going to fit in this mitten? What animal's coming next? It started snowing, but the animals were snug in the mitten. A waft of warm steam rose in the air, and the fox, trotting by, stopped to investigate. Just the sight of the cozy mitten made him feel drowsy. The fox poked his muzzle in, and when the mole, the rabbit, the hedgehog, the owl, and the badger saw his shiny teeth, they gave the fox lots of room. Oh, here comes Mr. Fox. A great bear lumbered by. He spied the Mitten all plumped up. Not being one to be left out in the cold, he began to nose his way in. The animals were packed as tightly as could be, but what animal could argue with a bear? The Mitten swelled and stretched. It was pulled and bulged too many times its size, but Baba's good knitting held fast. Wow. Oh, what animal's coming next? I see him. Along came a meadow mouse, no bigger than an acorn. She wriggled into one space left and made herself comfortable right on top of the bear's nose. Look at that. The bear, tickled by the mouse's whiskers, gave an enormous sneeze. Shoo! The force of the sneeze shot the Mitten up into the sky and scattered the animals everywhere. Look at that. On his way home, Nicky saw a white shape in the distance. It was the lost Mitten silhouetted against the blue sky. There it is. As he ran to catch his snow-white Mitten, he saw Baba's face in the window. First, she looked to see if he was safe and sound, and then he saw that he still had his new mittens. Look at the last page. What does Baba notice about the mittens? What a great story. The Mitten by Jan Brett. Hope you enjoyed that one. And thanks for joining me for another edition of Reading with Mr. Francis.